Hello and welcome to another session of Groundbreakers Live. I'm your host, Javed Mohammed, and I'm very honored to have with us Joshua Long, who is a Java champion. He's also a Spring developer advocate at VMware. Josh, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So Josh, you're presenting at DevNexus, and I was very intrigued by your title, Bootiful Kubernetes, a rom-com for the ages. Like, are you into movies and technology? I mean, how did you come up with the idea for the subject?
Well, I just got bored of writing the same old abstracts over and over. I describing a talk in terms of the pure technicalities of it is kind of boring, and so I didn't want to do that. So this was, and normally I do very vague abstracts anyway, because the talks, you can't really. Besides knowing that I'm going to talk about something that'll have to do with getting to production in Spring and all that, there's really not a lot that you can't really know whether the talk's going to be great for you or not, unless you're completely disinterested in that whole area, right? So if you're not interested in that whole area, then just avoid my talk. But if you're interested in anything in there, I pride myself on having something to offer for everybody. And so this talk is just really about the ridiculous things that we have to do to get to production, and where production today is Kubernetes, right? And how that affects the development of your Spring Boot applications, of course.
Okay. So what is, you talked about the beauty, the romance, the comedy. So
right.
What is the beauty in Kubernetes?
Well, Kubernetes is, it's so easy to pick on. That's the problem, and I'm guilty of this.
And I understand, like, it's kind of like the de facto now.
Yeah.
So in terms of orchestration and all the other things that it does,
it is the Lego bricks approach to systems, right? So everything in Kubernetes is an object. Everything has a life cycle. Everything in Kubernetes is just responding to events being published by everything else in the system. And so everything from Kubernetes, whether it's the initialization of a new managed certificate or a new ingress with a URL, or all of that is just somebody requested this, it put out an event, and then something else saw that and did the specific thing that it does to respond to that. And any one component can be taken off. So it's really elegant. It's just a tuple space full of objects, and they all have their own life cycles and events. And I just love that about it. On the other hand, the user interface is terrible, right? The user interface is reams and reams and reams of YAML, which is frustrating, and it's soul annihilating. I just hate this. So the question is, can we get the best of both worlds? Can we talk about getting to production and getting to production with Kubernetes and building software that's designed to last in a production environment like Kubernetes, without actually sacrificing ourselves in the way that Kubernetes seems to require, right? And yeah, there's plenty of ways we can get there faster. And so this talk is all about that. It's all about how do we build apps, and first of all, how do we build Spring apps that take advantage of that environment, right? To support things like liveness and readiness probes, to support things like containerization and native images and things like this. And then also, how do we avoid some of the sort of tedium that you get from Kubernetes?
So basically, you're going to be sharing like some best practices. You're going to be talking about things to avoid. Is that kind of the?
No, I'm going to talk about things you should absolutely embrace in the Spring ecosystem that make writing software destined for production easier and faster. That's really the key here, is faster. So basically, it's just about how to build apps that are ready for the scale that's implied by a distributed system like Kubernetes. So how do you build software that is resource efficient? How do you build software that is observable? How do you build software that is stateless and therefore elastic?
And how would you describe, because and I'm sorry, I keep going back to the title because I think it captures kind of so much. So is this also about the relationship between the developer and technology, whether it's Spring, whether it's Kubernetes? Is it about the relationship of the developer with the community? Because I mean, there's just so many angles you could take on this, and I'm just curious, like, what your take on this is.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean. So the relationship between the developer and the community?
So you talk about romance.
Yeah.
So what relationship are we talking about here when we talk about a rom-com?
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's the relationship between the developer and their pursuit of production, right?
Okay.
It's every single rom. I think rom-coms are um, hilariously predictable. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever. I mean, I'm not sure what the abstract for this particular talk was, but I guarantee you, I probably just found some pattern in in rom-coms, because
Sure.
rom-coms are one of like 10 main stories. There's 10
Uh-huh.
different
Uh-huh.
archetypes, right? And
Uh-huh.
they always have the same exact synopsis. So
Uh-huh.
I'm sure I found one of the synopses that are common,
Uh-huh.
and just swapped out the names of the players, because
Uh-huh.
that's not interesting. The rom-coms are not interesting in of themselves, but they do speak to the fact that these are common requirements. These are common scenarios, common things. And so I
Uh-huh.
just wanted that to be kind of what people have in their minds when they go into this talk, which is we're going to be confronting something that is very common, and yet there's a new take on it. It's a better take on it, hopefully.
Okay. And if there's like one takeaway from, I mean, obviously we're gonna encourage the viewers out there to actually check out your presentation, but if there's one takeaway that you want people to kind of walk away with, what would that be?
That Spring gives you the best primitives for building cloud native apps, and be that in Cloud Foundry, be that in Kubernetes, be that in raw infrastructure as a service offerings like Oracle Cloud or Azure or
Mhm.
AWS or TCP or whatever, or
Okay.
Alibaba, Aliyun.
All right. And obviously, you're presenting at Dev Nexus, so it's as with all things going on at this moment in time, it's all virtual.
Yeah,
What do you miss most about attending physical events?
the people.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the same as everybody, I suspect. The people in this community, as you know, I'm not talking to you. I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
maybe the audience don't appreciate it, but
sure.
we have this great like it. These people are cool. You don't get to be in the same room with all these great minds in most other contexts. I think about that a lot. What if I were a plumber? Do plumbers? I don't know. Maybe they do. Do plumbers have international conferences where they go to talk about plumbing and stuff? Like, and if they do, that's great. I don't know. I have no idea. Probably they do, but
Mhm.
I just feel like we're very unique, very lucky that we can always, if we wanted to, every day in this community, in the Java community, the JVM ecosystem, every day, if I wanted to, I could wake up and I could learn something brand new, and I could do that for the rest of my life, and I would never ever be done.
Mhm.
And then equally as interesting, I could get on a plane and go talk to somebody far away about it, and they'd be interested in having that conversation. It would have justified the flight, because there's so interesting things that people want to learn. So it's crazy. I just miss that. I miss the hallway track. I miss learning from people. I miss that.
Uh-huh.
Uh, you can't see it here, but I've got a blue screen behind me, and I've got studio lights, and it's getting ridiculous. I used to be able to go into a separate studio to do the stuff that I did that needed studio settings.
Mhm.
Um, and so all of that is just it's weighing on me. I really, when it's safe, I can't wait to see another human being again.
Well, hopefully that time will come sometime soon. Josh, thank you so much for giving us your time and all the best with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time as well.